I'll do my quick introduction. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to our Sage 300 office hour. I am Katie Geyer, Sage 300 Customer Success Manager here at BrainSell, and I will be your host for today. I am joined by Sage 300 Engineer Extraordinaire, Squealy Mason, who will show you a little bit about the various parts of Sage 300 and answer all your questions. Some of the quick housekeeping: if you have a question during the hour, please click the hand in the top right corner and Karsten will unmute you so that you can ask your question. And you can also use the question box to submit any questions during the hour. We encourage questions and for this to be an interactive experience. We've provided a handout for you in yesterday's email, so you can take any notes while we go through the office hour, and we will also provide it in the follow-up email tomorrow morning with the recording. So let's get started. Let's just jump right in. Here's the quick agenda of some of the topics that we'll be covering. Crystal Reports, key resource, Crystal Reports, how to create, edit, and view, and positive pay reports, and then any live Q&A questions. But again, if you have anything as we go through here, please don't hesitate to just raise your hand or put that question in the question box. All right, so we'll switch it over to Squealy to get started.
Okay, can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Crystal Reports. One of the things that we quickly learn is that a lot of the, or rather all of the reports in Sage 300 are written in Crystal except for the general ledger. So all of the general ledger financial writing, that is all Excel, but every other report, check forms, statements are all in Crystal. When you buy Sage 300, you get a Crystal runtime engine, which means you can run Crystal reports, but you can't edit them or create. What I'd like to do is just show you, if you wanted to purchase or add on Crystal to your Sage 300, what that could mean. So if you did, you would contact Katie and order Crystal, and this is Crystal. So I'm hoping everyone can see my Crystal Reports writer screen. The nice thing about Crystal is as soon as you open this page, there's all kinds of additional resources. And I've actually taken the liberty of clicking on some of them. And there's actually a Crystal Reports website with all kinds of free information and goodies. There's a Crystal Reports how-to guide. In fact, I clicked on this first impressions step-by-step guide, and that is literally a step-by-step guide on how to create reports in Crystal, which is what I've also supplied. I don't know if y'all actually were able to download. I downloaded a Word document as well as a little PDF with file locations. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start with the standard request in Sage is we want to modify our AP checks. So when you go to print your checks, you'll notice you pick your bank and you pick your checks that are ready to be paid, but there is a check form and advice, and you can browse and it shows you all the potential check forms. I've got AP Check 01, AP Check 3, AP Check 11. I've got a special print boss check, but all of these check forms are all .rpt, which means I can edit them. So if I was to go into my Crystal and open up my files and folders, I could actually track down my Sage AP check, and here's the check I was looking at. So again, Katie, I'm hoping everyone can see my screen. I'm hoping you can see the Crystal layout.
Yeah, we can. You know what though, Squealy? It's a little small. I don't know if you can make it any bigger.
Let's see, there is a way.
And maybe it's okay for right now. just I guess when if we get into a little bit more detail.
Yeah. Well, all right, that's no good. As I pluck along, I may find a button or something that makes it bigger, but I
Yeah,
don't
that's okay. Continue on.
okay. So basically, here's the check layout. So on the one hand, I've got a check in the preview that prints out like this. But on the other hand, I've got the actual crystal report, which is that. So there's kind of an interesting, I'll make that smaller. That's not a whole lot of help. There we go. So you can actually kind of compare what you want it to look like versus what crystal looks like. So at any point, the easy stuff is to just drop and drag, move, make smaller, move to the right. I can actually, you can see that's formatted. If I format it, I can right mouse click. I can format the text. I can unsuppress. And so now that'll pop out. And then I can unsuppress. And that'll pop out. So as far as this stuff goes, you can actually edit the sub-report, and you can maybe take out the country. But you can do things to move things around very easily, and then just save it as it is, and then Sage will automatically use that new format to run the checks. So that is the key, is to know where your format is that you want to work on. I'm going to close this. The other one I'm always modifying is the statements. So the standard statement is AR STMT 11, but I've also got one that I've modified out there. And it's a very similar name. Come on. There's mine, and I've just made a few changes to it. So just by changing that, I can go in. And of course, the trick is finding it. Where is it? So it's in accounts receivable, not accounts payable. So I got to switch to my accounts receivable and then find my statements. And again, it's easier to take something Sage has already created and move things around. Hard code stuff, put in logos. I could insert a logo. I could basically just insert picture and go find your logo and just drop it in. So inserting logos, moving things around, that's the easy stuff. And just keep in mind, when you're in Sage, it's going to give you the name of the report right up there. Now, those are the easy ones. Those are checks and statements and invoices. The same thing with order entry. If I wanted to print some order entry invoices, it's going to give me the name right here, the location. So I basically have to, just find it. Sometimes it's on your server, sometimes it's local, but find it. And then from that point, you just go into your crystal and go to that same location. And this is order entry. So I'm going to switch over to my order entry, which is going to be OE-ENG, and find my INV. So there's my invoice layout. So it's just those are the fun ones that we always work on. And you just have to know where it is so you can find the name of it. Now, every other report in Sage may not actually, you have to find it a different way. So hypothetically, if I wanted to just look at maybe an age trial balance, and let's say it was showing something, or it wasn't showing something that I didn't like, you almost need to run the report first And then the name, I don't know if you can see the very tippy top of my screen. Oops. Way up at the tip top of the screen, there it is. There's the location. C Sage, AR67A, ANG, Art Bal 01. So that's actually a very fine report, and it's in the actual body. But when you print the report, the ART BAL 01 is just the report name. I need that location name as well. Sometimes it's tricky trying to find the report, but once you find that report, then it's just in Crystal, select open, go find our report, and that just happens to be AR. So we go back to AR, ENG, there it is. Now that's a very heavy duty report, so be very careful. If you don't like something, instead of deleting it, I would suggest that you just right mouse click, format, and maybe suppress so that it's kind of blanked out. When you delete stuff in these reports, sometimes you affect amounts and calculations. So just kind of take your time. The other tricky thing about these other reports, so not statements, not invoices, and not checks, these reports are tied to what they call a data pipe. So when you run the report in Sage, every time you run it, you get a fairly complex parameter list. You can pick your date, you can pick your customer range, turn things on and off. If you want to change the age trial balance, you can, and just leave it the same name, and it'll run it every time, but it'll change it for everybody because this is kind of a standard report. You almost have to decide if what you want. This is a fine report, and I would never want to even begin to create something like this from scratch. But these parameters, I'm not smart enough to do all that, and that's a whole other thing, is to do the data pipes. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you just how to create a simple report. So I generally suggest that you just make minor modifications on a complex report. And oftentimes you just want to, add POs, exclude POs, extend the, a comment or something, or change a sort. All of your sorting is done up in these formulas, which you can play with a little, but just be careful on these standard reports. You can do some damage, but I can always fix it. You can always go back to the original canned report before that happens. Now let's go into here. Now, if I all of these report icons are just already linked to the Crystal report. If I made a custom report, I would make an icon like this, like one of these. You basically right mouse click at nothing and select new report, and then you can add a report just by browsing it to where that report is. I could actually come in here and just run it there, and then it would actually be a button that you could make do. So now, back just one more time before we leave the Crystal. When you first open, Crystal, the start page is just a wealth of resources. You can start a blank report. You can use a report wizard. You can open all the reports that I've just opened now appear, so I can go back to them at any point. I like the report wizard in this case. In fact, we'll go through it in just a second and show you how to use it. But from this start page, you've got tremendous resources that are just available, and they're different versions. I've got, what have I got? I think I've got Crystal 10. I think Crystal may be up to 11 or 12. The later versions, the newer versions of Crystal are quite nice. And I think all of them are going to work with all of the Sage reports. The newer versions of Crystal are actually going to give you some nicer parameter presentations and some nicer breakouts. So I do recommend just picking up the latest version of Crystal to do it. Again, without Crystal, without purchasing Crystal, you will not be able to edit or create reports in Sage. You can run reports. So I could make you a report, I could send it to you, and like I showed you, you could make a button and you could run a report without buying Crystal. But if you want to be able to open Crystal reports and make modifications and edit it, you're going to have to have a copy of Crystal on you. And then when you create the report, you need to make some sort of a link or some sort of a icon so that you can actually run it in Sage, because Sage has your runtime engine. Otherwise, you'd have to open Crystal and report and run it. And you don't want to do that. You want to just give everybody a report, put it on their desk, or use an existing report and just change the name of it, or change the name of the actual whatever it is you're running, and browse for it. When you can browse for it, they can browse for it. But only statements and invoices and checks can you actually browse for. The rest of them are going to be hard-coded in there. All right, so now let's move on to the actual Crystal itself. All right, I'm just going to do a report wizard. So this is the Crystal report wizard. I'm just going to click on it. Now, the first thing it asks you is your data source. You can see I've got a lot of odd ones out there just because I do a lot of different things. But this is basically your ODBC link. So if I was to open my ODBC link, if I was to go in and go to my C, Windows, I don't know if everybody knows this, but you actually have some sort of an ODBC link. So I've actually got one in here called sample, and it's pointing to the data. So I've got my data on a SQL server, and my SQL server name is SSI SQL, and I'm just going through and telling this to Crystal. So when I'm in Crystal, it asks me, okay, what's my data source? And my data source you have to think of is going to be probably somewhere in SQL, probably, a SQL server or a SQL server name. And you can create one. I just have one out here called sample, the server. And if you look, I meant to open this one up. Sorry. I meant to have that open. I actually have a database in SQL called sample. Give it just a minute to load. So in my SQL Server Management Studio, these are all my databases, and I've actually got one called sample, and it's literally in there. So there's my sample database. It exists in SQL. I'm going in as SA, and again, you may have to call your computer guy in. That's however you connect. Sometimes you have a special login. I'm just using SA, which is the system administrator, and then I have to put the password. So you may have to know a little bit about SQL and a little bit about how you're connected. Once you figure it out, and you have to know that anyway to connect Sage. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar. When you're in Sage, there is a Sage setup. So whoever sets up Sage, there's a database setup. This is exactly the information that you put in here. So here's there's my sample, there's my edit. So everything uses kind of the same. So I'm using my server, SQL, SSI, and there's my login again. So this is how both Sage and Crystal connect to your database. And your database is sitting nicely, quietly in SQL. And this is a way to access your database. So here are my credentials, database name, login password, and I go next. Oops. What do you mean? Oh, great. Try this one more time. Try this again. All righty there. There it went. Why the first time it didn't work, I don't know. Again, this looks odd, but it is in my notes. And it's also, if you'll look again, when I found that very interesting website, they've actually got it on the crystal stuff. Here's showing you in the crystal how to access the database. So this is kind of common language, but a little tricky, and you'll catch on. It'll look familiar in a minute. So here's my sample database, and I hit the plus. And you do have to look for that DBO. That's a database owner and tables. But once you get here, all of a sudden, now you got something you can work with. Now, I believe there was a file that we sent out to you, and there is one secret file that I'm sharing with you that is from Sage, and it's actually called the Sage ERP ACPAC 6.0A Technical Information Document. And this is a wonderful document. It lists all of the tables and what they are. So hypothetically, I'm going to look at accounts payable, and here are all my accounts payable table names and what they are. I go back to my crystal. Sure enough, AP, these are all my AP tables. And then I scroll a little bit down, and these are all my AR tables. I'll scroll a little bit down. There's my bank tables. There's my common services. That's my EFT, my electronic funds, my general ledger. You're seeing a pattern here. IC for inventory, OE, order entry. So you got to kind of figure out what you're looking for, and that's when this PDF document comes in handy. You could pick on whatever it is you're interested in, like order entry, and figure out what's the name of the table that I want, where's the data that I want, and then you can isolate where you're going. So I'm gonna try to keep it simple, and I'm just going to start with accounts payable. And some of them make sense, and that's why I chose this one. This is AP VIN, and that's my vendor database. So if that's right. If I double click on that, there's my AP vendors, and I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to pick my AP vendor database and go next. And then here are all the fields under AP vendor. So again, you could actually go into Sage, go into your vendors, and basically all of your normal fields that are in here, your address, your contact, your processing, all of these fields are going to be represented in this list. So there's your vendor ID. I'm going to do vendor ID. I'm going to do vendor name. I'm going to do, let's just go state, postal code or zip code, name. I got email. Maybe I'm trying to come up with a list, a quick list of emails. There it is, email 1 and 2. So maybe I just want a quick list of my vendors and their emails to make sure I've got their information, and I don't want I just want a small one. Now there is a report in Sage that would get close to that. There's an AP reports, vendor information, but this report is really genuinely big, and it kind of gets in the way. What if I just want a small report with just those fields? I just kind of want to know where they are. So that's I just picked one table. I picked these fields. And if I don't want something, I can kick it back. Let's just get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that one. Let's just keep it smaller and simpler. All right, so here are my report fields. And let's say, do I want to group it by anything? And at this point, no. That would be if I wanted to, well, maybe I could group it by state. Let's group it by state. Ascending order is fine. We could do ascending or descending. And then we've got to summarize. I don't really need to summarize. I don't need to summarize postal code, but that's okay. And then if I wanted to filter, if I wanted to do, but I'm just going to keep it simple. That would be a filter. I'm not gonna filter anything. I don't need any graphics. I'm just going to finish it. Okay, there's my report. So that quick, and then it's just looking kind of messy. So what I do, excuse me, I've got a tab over here called Design and a tab called Preview. And the preview lets me see some data. And it's always good to see data. When you're writing a report, you want to make sure you're aiming at your target. So, but this is kind of messy. It's kind of redundant that I don't need it. So what I can actually do is, let's say I don't need the state repeated. So I'll just go Format and just suppress it. So it's still there, but that I like having it at the beginning anyway. It's fine. I probably don't even need the total. But again, instead of deleting it, I would rather format and just have it sit quietly in case I change my mind. And I can see we've got some space issues, so I could very easily come in here and just kind of drag. Oop, didn't mean to do that. I want a double arrow. I can kind of drag it in a little closer. I can kind of drag this over. The trick is to get everything to come with you. You want to get the whole thing moving so I can make room. There you go. Whoa, see, I went too far. So, okay, when you mess up like that, you go find the oops button, and there's an undo, and I can undo my oops. So basically, that is how to do a report. Now I want to save it, and I don't care about saving my data, but I want to save as, and I'm just going to call it customers and email. And I'm going to put it, I'm going to actually put it with some custom reports so that I don't lose it. That's kind of a good practice. And then if I go into my Sage, I'm going to put it under my customers, excuse me, vendors. I did that wrong. Hang on, let's do file, save as, excuse me, vendors and emails. And then in Sage, I can go to my vendor reports. Again, if I want to give this report to somebody in my organization, or if I want it, on my computer, I basically right mouse click at nothing, get new, pick report, and call it vendors and email address. Now here's the tricky part. I got to go find it. So whatever I named it, wherever I put it, and see, who knows where I am? I'm way off in space. Let's go find where I put it. And I've got a folder called custom reports, and there it is. There's my vendors and emails. So now I've actually got its own button. I put it with other vendor reports. I could put it wherever I wanted. In fact, I could even have an icon just for me. Where's my icon just for me? Oh, well, I lost it. But I could put it wherever I wanted it, and then you just run it. There's my report. And there's Arkansas, California, Colorado, Florida, Yorkshire. Cool. So this is my crystal report. And there it lives in my Sage. So those are just some easy, I know sometimes I'll do, employees, customers, and just keep it simple like that. All right, let's look at the next. And once you make a crystal report, it actually remembers. So if I do another report wizard, you can see the sample has a little cable connected to it. So it's still connected. I could still keep going and still find I could make more reports from other aspects, because it's going to remember every time I click on it and make a connection. Otherwise, I would be making a new connection, and then I would have to go back through and pick my ODBC and pick my, oh, looky there, it made that new connection, and then I'd have to go all through this again, picking my connection. So it tries to help. The wizard is a good thing. The wizard is a very good thing, except when it runs ahead of you and thinks you want something. I don't care about that. Let's get rid of that one. So I can just close that one. All right, and it keeps everything I've done so far is just sitting here open in Crystal. Crystal just keeps it open and lets you do what you want with it, and put it where you want. All right, so now that was a lot. Does anybody have any questions? None whatsoever.
I don't see anything.
Well, I don't know if I'm going too fast or going too slow.
I know it's a lot of information, so if anyone, has a question, feel free.
All right, so what I'll do now, you can actually modify reports. I can actually go back into this report and I can actually modify the report selections. And I could basically then change my mind and say, well, I only want postal code equals CA. And a lot of times you just have to put what you think it should be and then say save and let it tell you what's wrong. So, oh my goodness, there's an error in the formula. Do you want to save anyway? No. And it clearly says, oh, it would rather me put that in quotes. When it's a value, it quite often, or like a string, it really wants a quote. And that's it. And then I can refresh the data, and then it's just going to give me California. So it really, I love it. I think it's a fun thing. You can actually add more complicated series. Now, if I wanted to save this and get rid of it, I just put the remark into it, and it's remarked out, and then run it again, and then everybody's back. So you can actually leave yourself little breadcrumbs on how things work and how things don't work. Or I could say equals Alabama and state equals I believe it's double quotes. Usually, though, it comes behind me and fixes it. Ooh, didn't like that at all. Oh, see? Okay, here's what's wrong. I made it and. So it really should be or. So that would be or. Ta-da! So you can kind of let it lead you and let it help you figure out kind of what's going on and how things fit. Crystal is a very good product. It's got some good stuff. And again, you can modify it. I can change that. I can make it bold. I can actually, if you do it from preview, you can see yourself do it. You can make it bold. You can add graphics. You can add a title. I can actually insert a box. No, not a box. I want to insert a text object. Sorry, text object, and put it here. And then I can actually give it a title. I can say customers with email addresses. And then try to so you've got some, it's Crystal is such a nice product for someone who doesn't have to know very much. I consider myself very much an amateur, and I'm always tickled when things work. But you can actually, and then you could actually, send this out to somebody to repair and do some new stuff. And always remember to save your work. Save your work. Oh my goodness, save your work. You'll be sad. You'll be sad. All right. So now I'm going to attempt a high wire act. I don't know. A lot of people have been asking for a positive pay report. So what I thought I might do is just show you how to create from scratch a positive pay report. So what I've done in the past is I have linked it so that after, and a positive pay report is something that the banks are asking for now. When you cut some checks and accounts payable and you send it to the bank, excuse me, you cut the checks, the bank wants you to send them the list of checks that you want paid. So what I do is I try to tie it to the batch number. So every time you cut a batch of checks, then I try to run a crystal report to capture the batch number that you just printed and then send that to the bank. The bank has you go online and just drop the report. Well, the bank wants it in a comma separated. And all that sounds fairly complex. And actually, you can almost do it with Excel, but I'm going to do it with Crystal. Basically, create a report that will pull the last batch I did in AP and put it in comma separated so we can send it to the bank. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to a new report. I'm going to keep my same connection. And if you downloaded the Crystal handout that I sent, I actually have this kind of stepped out. So I need two reports I've already figured out. So if I look at my PDF and I look under accounts payable, I'm looking for printed checks. So it just so happens there is a table. It's APTCR. These are payments and adjustment details. Excuse me, this one, payments and adjustments. So that's what I want, is I want the table in accounts payable that has my payments. So that's APTCR, but I also need my bank information. I need to be able to give the bank name and the bank account. So under the bank services, I'm looking for the bank account. And this is my bank information that I can give the bank. So those are my two tables that I'm going to try to tackle. So I'm going to do APTCR, and I want BK account. All right, now I've got two tables. So this adds a level of complexity. I'm going to go next. Now it wants you to link them. I don't always keep the links. In this place, I kind of have to. But you can clear and make special links. I'm just going to take, these are just the fields that these tables have in common that we'll need so that they'll match up right. So I'm just going to leave it like it is. All right, and now I want to pick my amount remit. My count batch, there it is, count batch. My date remit, the ID remit, and the name remit, and then the bank account. So I'm going to scroll down here and get my bank information. believe I want my bank account. Where is it? I want, there it is, BK account. Now, I had to do some digging to figure out what all those were. You can't always just look at a PDF. I actually kind of cheated in these cases. I was able to open my SQL, and you can see SQL acts just like Crystal. It wants the same information. So I can actually go to my APTCR, and I can just let them pop in. And these are actually, so these are my adjustments, but these are also my payments. And you can actually see the count, the batch number, and I actually kind of cheated. I came under here to get my vendor name, and you can see there's my name, remit is up there, so that helps me see. There's my amount of the check. And then the other thing I had to get was the BK. So you have to kind of be able to have some access. Not all computer people want to give you full access. Just to find stuff, or just ask me. So I have to find my bank, and then I had to find my account number, which is over here somewhere. All right, there's my account number. So I'll need my account number, because I could have more than one bank, so I'll need to be able to identify the actual bank and account number. So I kind of used SQL to help me understand, but otherwise you can just play with it. I mean, you can pick what you think it is and see what comes out. In this case, let's go report, group by, and I'm going to group by the count batch. And I don't know that I care about totaling that or that. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot to specify. Where my count batch equals. All right, try it again. Great, nothing. All righty then. Why didn't you give me anything? I have a payment batch list. 55. Oh, has it not been posted? Oh, it hadn't been posted. Okay, fine. I gotta have one that's posted. All right, let's try 45. Let's try. Okay, fine. Fine. All right. I may not be able to do it. Let's just, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna open one I've already done. So basically what I did is I stripped it. So you'll notice my report 3, I had everything in a big layout like this. But my final result, I didn't need all that stuff. I don't need headers. I don't need footers. So my final result, I literally stripped everything out but the details line, so that I could just get the bank, the check number, the date, the amount, and the payee code all in the same line. So yeah, probably was a little larger, but you can just take these puppies out. That's just header stuff. And when you're doing a report like this, we don't need headers. So you just have to kind of grab stuff and get rid of it. Come on. And either squeeze it up or just right mouse click and do suppress. And then come down here and do suppress. And come down here and do suppress. And that needs to be suppressed. So then you just kind of end up with that. Because again, all I'm trying to do is I want to run this report and then have it send it to a comma separated. So then when I'm in my report here, I'm going to point it to my new report, and I'm going to make it under C, Sage, custom reports. Oops. Where did I say it was? All right. Hang on. Where's my report? All right, I'll fix you. I'll just put it where I want it. Okay. Oh, I'm in the wrong custom. Okay. Let's go C. Sage. Custom. I have too many custom reports. All right. Now I go back into my Sage. Now I go back in my positive pay. Now I go back to my drive. There it is. All right, now when I run it, so what you do is you run the report, you give it a batch number, 45, you tell it okay. She said. There it is. Okay, so there's my trimmed down report. Now, again, the bank doesn't want this. What the bank wants is this, export to a CSV. So I basically did a roundabout way of taking a report with the data that they wanted so that I could pick it by batch, but I'm shooting it out. I'm exporting it out of the preview into a comma separated that I can then give to the bank. And so when you're finished, what you're giving to the bank is, oops, wrong button. You're giving the bank this, which is that. And the bank wanted comma separated, and sometimes they'll want you have to go to a special date format. So they wanted a 2-character date. So in that case, I needed to go in here. You notice I've got a right mouse click, and I can do a format, and I can tell Crystal that I want 2 digits in my date. So that's exactly what the bank wanted. And then they wanted, what was it? That was the other thing they wanted. They wanted, I think they wanted all the zeros, but you can basically, point being, I can basically, oh, here it is, the check number. I could actually edit and format and change things and let it be what the bank needed in this comma separated format with the year. It was the year they needed the 4-digit year, month, day, year, and different banks want different routines. So you can still do that with Crystal, get a comma separated report and be able to run it at will so that you can call it up and literally pick the batch number, whatever batch number you want it to be. Will it do 55? I'm just curious. 55 wasn't posted. Oh, it did anyway. Wasn't even posted. So it did batch 55 as well. So that was a lot. All right. Question for positive pay. Can you pull a range? Yeah, well, I could, yes. The answer would be yes. You would just have to give it a range. So basically in your, I've got up here under my selection formula, instead of having one batch number, it would be batch number equals that, either greater than or equal to, and you do a range, or you could do it is in between. So yes, you could basically do, I just did one at a time, but you could do any kind of, it's just your basic, however you want to write your functions. You've got all the basic functions and operators that you do with everything else. So yeah, you could certainly do that. Other than that, I would say Crystal, I like it. It's been around a very long time. It works with so many different products, not just Sage 300. It works with all kinds of products. They're kind of the basic. And in any report that you see, if you find yourself poking around any report with an RPT, so see this RPT extension. Now you can't do DLLs. Don't mess with the DLLs. But all these are reports. So here's my 1099. Excuse me, 1099. You can basically modify your W-2. You can modify any of this stuff. If I wanted to do my W-2, I could go to my payroll, go down into my taxes. There's my 941. I could actually modify 941 if I wanted to, which I have had to do from time to time. I've had to come in here and change the year. So with Crystal, you can modify just about anything with a .rpt extension. The trick is, where is it and what is it, and keep a copy so that if you blow it up, you don't, you got a back door to fix it. So, but I love Crystal, and Crystal has a tremendous, there's even a community online. I think there's a community link, and I've actually just been able to Google errors or Google, I've gone online and I've Googled, for inclusive statements and date range statements. I mean, there is a tremendous community of Crystal users that will give you whatever you want. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of just free information. It's just how much time have you got, and how more do you want to dig, how much do you want to dig. But I'm a big fan of it, so I encourage you to get it if you don't have it, and get in there. And if you tear something up, let me know. You can pretty much put these reports back if you lose them or blow them. But these will work on every report in Sage except the financials. All of your GL financials are going to be in Excel. All these are Excel, but everything else is Crystal. All right, guys, we got time to spare.
Yeah, any other questions? And I just wanted to reiterate that you can get Crystal reports. It is $240 for an annual, the annual cost from Sage. So if you're purchasing it mid-year, it'll be prorated, and Squaley would be glad to help you to implement that. Let me just check. I don't think I see any other questions. So I think we'll end it there. Just thank you everyone so much for joining us today. And as always, Squaley, you do such an amazing job of just giving us an overview and into that those Crystal reports today. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge always. And we just ask, as you exit the webinar, there'll be a survey. So if you could just let us know what you'd like to see in future sessions, that would be incredibly helpful. Please fill it out. We appreciate any feedback, and we will for sure get back with any questions that you may still have or may pop up after this webinar. So thank you again, Squaley. My information's listed below. So if you'd like to get some one-on-one time with Squaley, please reach out to me. There's a QR code that just lists our discounted support block pricing. So
I thought that was my
great.
QR code. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's your QR code to get Squaley one-on-one.
That should be an SQ in the middle.
She books up fast, so make sure to download that. But again, thank you everyone. Thank you, Squaley. Enjoy the rest of your day. And again, any feedback you can give us would be incredibly helpful for the next session. Thanks so
guys.
much.
See you.
Bye-bye.